around the corner of 1st Street and Central Avenue here in the heart of Little Tokyo in downtown Los Angeles. It was on this site that 60 years ago my family, together with other Japanese American families, were assembled and then taken away to internment camps. We're standing in front of the Japanese American National Museum, a museum dedicated to telling the story of the Japanese American experience. This building was originally a Buddhist temple built in 1925. This Buddhist temple was abandoned in 1969, and so we came in and we converted it into a museum. And we opened the doors to the Japanese American National Museum right here in 1992. But our vision was much bigger than what this building could contain. So we began fundraising and we expanded into this modern building here, 85,000 square feet, designed by Japanese American architect Gyo Obata, who also incidentally designed the Air and Space Museum in Washington, D.C. Let's go into the new pavilion building of the Japanese American National Museum. We opened the doors here for the first time in 1999. On the wall here, you see the names of all the people who contributed to helping to build this museum. It's their story, and they should be the owners of this building. The museum has many galleries, and we have changing exhibits, but we'll be going through the main and the permanent exhibit called Common Ground, the Heart of Community. The first gallery tells the story of the immigrants, the coming of the immigrants, and this pile of luggage, I think, is a very good symbol of the transiency of the two generations of Japanese Americans. The base is made up of the suitcases that the immigrant generation brought to America with them, and the upper suitcases are the suitcases that the next generation took into the internment camps. The story of America is a story of immigrants, people coming from all over the world to build a nation, all aspiring to build America and aspiring to become Americans, except one group of immigrants. Immigrants coming from Asia, aliens ineligible to citizenship. But despite all these barriers like politicians who campaigned on a platform like Keep California White, the Japanese Americans were adjusting to life in America. Children were going to school carrying the American flag. They went to work in the lumber industry, the fishing industry. They started up enterprises, businesses, and they even served in the Spanish-American War, even though they were denied naturalized citizenship. December 7th, 1941 was catastrophic for all Americans, but especially for Japanese Americans. For simply looking like the enemy, we were rounded up and incarcerated, our property taken, our homes taken, our freedom taken. This is the corner of 1st Street and Central Avenue 60 years ago. My family and I were part of this crowd. We were assembled here by soldiers with guns and taken away to the horse stables of Santa Anita Racetrack, where we were housed for several months while the camps were built. When they were built, our family was taken to the swamps of Arkansas, a camp called Rower. We were taken to black tar paper covered barracks, something like this one here. This barrack is from the internment camp at Wyoming called Heart Mountain. About 120,000 Japanese Americans were incarcerated with no trial, no charges, no due process. Simple incarceration, simply for looking like the enemy. This is a scale model of the camp in California called Manzanar. All 10 internment camps were set up similarly, divided into blocks, each with its own latrine, laundry, and common mess hall. All Japanese Americans on the West Coast and a few from Hawaii were rounded up. Old and young, healthy and sick, even orphans. I began kindergarten at the camp in Rower, Arkansas, and I learned to recite the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag with the sight of the barbed wire fence and the guard towers right outside my window. I learned to recite, "With liberty and justice for all." This is a painfully moving photo of a father in an internment camp, receiving the flag that covered his son's coffin, killed in action, fighting for the United States military in Europe. An irony of history is the fact that the all-Japanese-American 522nd Field Artillery Battalion liberated Dachau, the Nazi concentration camp. The war ended, and the world began to change for Japanese Americans. Because of the heroism of Japanese American soldiers, in 1952, Congress for the first time granted naturalized citizenship to Asian immigrants. And here, Japanese immigrants in great numbers took their oath and became, for the first time, naturalized American citizens. Japanese Americans began to participate in the entire process of American life. They began to run for public office. In Hawaii, a young man named Dan Inoue, a veteran of the 442nd, ran for Senate and became U.S. Senator. Spark Matsunaga ran for U.S. Congress and became a congressman. Japanese Americans were now in the halls of Congress making law. In the 1970s, another extraordinary chapter of American history began, the movement to heal the wounds of internment. And in 1988, President Ronald Reagan signed the bill formally apologizing for the internment of American citizens of Japanese ancestry. Despite this turbulent history, Japanese Americans today are full participants in the life of America, indeed winning gold medals. There you see the costume worn by Christy Yamaguchi when she won the figure skating gold medal in the Olympics. And there she's featured on the Kellogg's cereal box. And Japanese Americans now are even out in space. Here you see the costume of Captain Sulu from Star Trek VI Undiscovered Country, worn by yours truly. Japanese Americans are boldly going where no man has gone before. We conclude our tour here in the Aratani Central Hall. As the chairman of the board of the Japanese American National Museum, I thank you for visiting us.